politicians have ruined politics. It's just what life is now. Politicians, with a little help from the media, have single-handedly tarnished what they were elected to do. But how does that make any sense? It does not. But why doesn't anyone trust politicians anymore? Or did everyone just not trust them to begin with, and now it's much more of a public opinion? What may have been the most divisive, interesting, funny, horrifying, and game-changing election in the 21st century has brought out the best.
Politics has become nasty and desperate, and you know it does not have to be that way.
And worst of politics.
I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
But mostly the worst.
Skinny Kevin! You want answer?
And then, well, there's this.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy. I can do anything.
I went around during election day and asked people a simple question.
Do you like your candidate more or dislike the other candidate more?
Good question.
That I hoped could have been easily answered. Most people did not want to even answer, or they just plain couldn't.
You want to answer?
In an era where everyone is so connected, why are people so divided? I started my interviews off with a teacher here at our own high school, Mrs. Dudgeon, who teaches my AP Comparative Government class and also teaches a bunch of other government classes within the high school.
How long have you been teaching here?
5 years. This is my 5th year.
And how long have you been a teacher in general?
5 years.
Nice. That's awesome. So, compares, you've only actually taught for one other election then.
Yes.
So, how does this election compare to the last election?
A lot more attention in this election being paid by the students, and it was really kind of surprising, especially for the freshmen, how interested some of them were in what was happening.
Why do you think that was?
I think a lot more news coverage, a lot more social media coverage. You have different personalities that ran in this election than in 2012. And I think that a lot of people in general were talking about the election, so I think they picked up on that.
You mentioned social media. Do you think social media had a very big impact on this election?
I think it did, not only in the spread of, I'll call it legitimate news, but in the fake news that has been spread around social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Once someone posts something, even if it's not true, it does get spread. So I think people are exposed to more.
To continue with my interviews, I next went to a shameless Republican and a bleeding heart liberal. I'll let you guess which one is which.
Yep, my name is Matt Provo. I'm a senior at Bedford High School.
My name is Jamie Salvatore. I am a senior at Bedford High School.
Who did you support in this election?
I supported
Not Donald Trump.
Donald Trump in the election.
So that leads to my next question. What did you think of Trump?
What did I think of Trump? Well, mainly what I thought of Trump was based on Hillary Clinton and her stances on a lot of things. And Trump is still different this election. Usually I wouldn't support someone like this, and typically someone like this wouldn't get the support from the people that he did if it wasn't for Hillary Clinton and her corruption and her being in office for so long.
So, what did you think of Trump?
Can I say it on camera? I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he has the best interests of our country in mind. I don't think he thinks of anyone but himself and his economic interests and benefits.
So, what did you think about Hillary?
I thought that she was the most qualified candidate. I know that there's a lot of controversy over the emails and that making her not a qualified candidate, but I think in the grand scheme of things, she has the most experience out of any of the running candidates, and she was prepared to lead the country,
So,
in essence.
why do you think she didn't win if she was the most qualified?
Because she was a female.
That's why?
Because there was so much controversy over the emails that I don't think would have been as big of a deal if she weren't a female, because people are scared of strong leading women, and she was that, and she had that presence, and I just don't think people were ready for that.
That kind of answered my second.
What do I think of Hillary, right?
What do you think of Hillary?
Well, Hillary is, just doing my research, had a long line of corruption that has not been detailed by the media, but has been in the past, which is why I did my research. So if you go on websites from like archives from like 1995, about Clinton, about the Clinton family and all, Chelsea Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, you'll find a lot of stuff that might shock you and that the media refused to cover in 2016.
So where do you actually get your news from? Like what sources?
For me, I like to get my news from a lot of places. Now, of course, you see a lot of people on the left would like to accuse me of, oh, you must just get that from Fox News, or oh, you might just get that from Breitbart. Well, no, you might just get your news from MSNBC and Twitter. Same thing. I get my news from wherever I see it, and I don't, based on what happened in the 2016 election, I kind of just take it with a grain of salt, and I see it from online, on TV, wherever it may be.
My next question is, where do you get your news from?
CNN, BBC,
BBC? Do you rush news about the U.S.?
Well, they have articles online that are about the U.S. and then the New York Times posts and CNN posts. Yeah.
That's good.
Various news articles.
Specifically for me, this election could not have come at a better time. I was 2 months and 13 days too young to vote at the time the polls closed. Too young to actually do anything, but old enough to take in all the information and smart enough to understand it. So many different views came, some polar opposites with hate spewing towards each other. For someone like me who doesn't remember much of previous election, where did this discourse begin?
Do you think teaching politics you notice different stuff as a high school teacher?
I think so. I mean, like I said, this year, the freshmen, I was really kind of surprised how invested they were in the election. Obviously, they can't vote for 3 or 4 more years. So the fact that they were interested was surprising, pleasantly surprised. But I think even in AP Comparative Government, I mean, we focus on 6 different countries around the world and their governments and comparing them, but you can't do that in a vacuum. Obviously, that gets pulled into the classroom as well.
Yeah, it's understandable. Did you notice a change in attitude in the students before and after the election, or did you notice anything?
We had some bullying.
Yeah.
On social media, I think on Snapchat, that was addressed. We continue to have some tension at the freshman level in the classroom, although that's calmed down a bit, I think. It's difficult as a teacher to be on that middle line because students do want to talk, and that's understandable, but then also just making sure that everything, no one's feeling picked on or left out.
I think there's a bad stigma too that teachers try to force their political beliefs on their students.
I think that a lot of that is because, this person is in charge of the classroom where students are learning, and that's a lot of power in some people's minds.
Yeah, especially in young
right.
developing minds who
right.
are still in the midst of puberty.
Exactly.
So another question, you said a lot of kids were arguing. Did you notice when they were arguing if they were throwing around false information, fake news?
Sometimes.
A lot?
Yep. And if that would come up in the conversations we were having, large group discussion, I would try to present kind of the middle ground and say, hey, you really should look into that. I just did a lesson in Roots last week and we looked at 4 different news articles on the same topic. 2 were from the Atlantic, 2 were, one was Newsmax and one was the New York Times, and we looked at, author's perspective, what are they trying to do, and I had them put the articles from liberal to conservative, and it was really interesting, and the kids, I think, got a lot out of that.
Do you think you had any influence on your students this election, good or bad?
I I don't think so. I hope not, because I mean, my job as a teacher is to educate, and I place a huge value on civic engagement in general, and being an informed citizen. So if anything, if I've influenced them, I hope it's to become more informed.
Do you think this election will set new precedents for elections in the future?
That's a tough question. I'm going to say I hope not, because I think
It's a nasty election.
it exposed a lot of flaws and divisions in our country, and I'm not sure that year upon year of that will be beneficial for America in general.
You get in debates with your friends, like get frustrated and see them throwing around false information?
I mean, everyone thinks they're right, correct? So they're not really debates since I'm 17, and it's like, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter right now. So the debates are mostly just for like filling time. But like, I remember going back to the elections, having some long debates with my friends, and typically over text, and they cause no harm.
So you said you're 17, so you could not vote in the last election.
Yeah.
But were you involved?
I was very involved. I signed up to. I went to the Trump headquarters in Manchester, and asked what I could do. They gave me signs. They gave me bumper stickers. They went to basically every single campaign headquarters possible. Try to see what I could do for any candidate besides Hillary Clinton, of course. And I was very involved, and even though I couldn't vote, I was still there on election day, holding up a nice Trump 2016 sign. So
Was Trump your first choice?
I'd say every single Republican candidate was my first choice, minus a few. I went to basically every single event that they had to hold. I went August 2015, I think, was the first political event I went to for the 2016 election cycle. And I saw, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, Jeb Bush, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, all of them. And it was very interesting to see all of their viewpoints and how a lot of them were the same, and how a lot of them wanted to expose the Clinton corruption, but it was just the way that Trump went about it that made him the eventual winner.
So did this make you trust Trump, or like any of your leaders in general, seeing how corrupt some could be and how transparent others were?
More than anything, it was what harm could be done at this point. All the harm that's been caused by the Clinton campaign, or the Clinton Foundation, everything in the Obama-Clinton regime for the past, basically they've been around for like 20 years, all of them, right? So basically anything that they did.
Could you vote this election?
No,
You couldn't?
sadly.
Did you do anything though? Did you?
I mean, I was very kind of active in expressing my beliefs and I guess advocating for them.
Some arguments at school?
A little bit.
Would they get nasty?
Not really. I mean, there was just a lot more of people saying ignorant comments and then me trying to correct them, because I think that not everyone, I mean, I'm not saying I was the most well-informed person during this election, but there were a lot of people who just didn't know what they were talking about, so I would try to correct them.
Where do you think that stems from? Why do you think these people start talking about stuff that they have no idea what's going on?
Because they hear a news bit, or they read the title of an article, or they hear something through the grapevine. A lot of, I guess, the discussions I was getting into were with people who were like, oh, well, my friend said this, or I was told this.
You saw a tweet about this.
Right, and they don't really know, it's not their own belief, it's just what has been repeated to them, and then they're like, well, that sounds intelligent, I'll just say that, and I'm like, but it's not exactly true.
Respect that. So, next question is, do you trust your leaders in place right now?
No.
Why not?
Because the president of our country has not been consistent on one topic, and the only thing he's been consistent on is making up things, twisting the truth, and just flat out lying. And there's been nothing that comes out of his mouth that you can be 100% certain if it's true.
This is just how these kids felt before the election. So how do they feel after?
So what do you think about the policies so far?
I think some of the policies, the ideas have been good, but sometimes they haven't been executed to the extent that you want, because a lot of times you see with people who are new to politics, this is the first time since Dwight Eisenhower no one has served in office for an American president. So it's interesting to see, because he said on day one, I know it's kind of like a figure speech, but on day one, I'll repeal Obamacare, repeal and replace, he said, make sure that, the immigration thing is figured out. But a lot of that stuff cannot be done even in the first 100 days. So some of it's been rushed to meet those deadlines, but I just hope that he can work with the Democrats, or else nothing will get done, like the health care bill, right? Nothing will end up getting done. Even one of my favorite politicians, Newt Gingrich, said, who's very leans heavily conservative, he said that there's nothing you can do unless you cut the Democrats some slack. But that doesn't mean going to like a single payer type thing or whatever.
I understand. So who would you say influenced you the most during this election?
Hillary Clinton influenced me the most.
Why would that be?
And her supporters. Just in the media too. That's a lot of things. Basically just the ignorance that I saw with a lot of people, not with a lot of people. It's not their faults actually, right? Because the media presents you basically two sides. It was basically good and evil with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and there wasn't really much people could do with it unless you were actually directly affected by it, which a lot of people were, but that's not all the population. So I don't blame them, but it's just how it is.
I understand. How do you feel like during this election? Do you think people took it seriously, or do you
I think people took it seriously, but I think the other problem, going back to the whole media thing, is that the media especially highlighted things of Donald Trump and not of Hillary Clinton that would have made Hillary Clinton look even sillier than she already did.
Sillier, I like that word.
So that's my perspective. People did take it seriously, but it wasn't put out in the way that it should have been.
So my next question is about the policies put in place thus far, and if you like any, if you don't like any, and why.
All right, so I can't say I've kept up with every single policy that's put in place. I know I'm not a huge fan of the one that is allowing the Dakota Access Pipeline to be built, because I think that is a terrible idea. But of course, it's going to benefit him economically, and so we're going forward with it. I don't like the fact that he's trying to completely change Obamacare, so I'm glad that didn't go through. And I don't like the fact that he's signing bills about women's rights and reproductive health in groups of all male counterparts. I don't think that his policies, especially towards women, are going to be fair. Yeah.
That's good. So next, what or who do you think influenced you the most this election?
That's hard, because a lot of it was, I did a lot of, not research, but I was very politically aware during the election, and so I think I kind of was able to make my own conclusions based on what I was reading. I guess to an extent my parents, but there was a while when I was supporting Bernie and they were strong Hillary supporters. So even then, we weren't on the same page, but once Bernie was no longer a candidate, then I was more on board with Hillary, and so I guess they support or influenced me that way.
As important as it is to make changes where you see injustices in current times, it is also important to put your vendettas aside and focus on making a brighter future for everybody tomorrow.
I'm going to University of Vermont. I am currently planning on studying primary education in Spanish, because I want to be an ESL teacher, teach English in foreign countries, but I also kind of want to look into social work. I don't really know. I want to work with kids. I want to travel.
There's a lot you can do
And
with that.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is that it?
I've just been interested in, well, St. A's for a long time, and politics, so I think it went well. But I really want to work in baseball when I get older.
Baseball.
Yeah, I'm just into politics, but like baseball's my thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you just have anything you want to close with? Say anything to say?
Nothing other than, be informed, vote, take an interest, whatever your position is, you should definitely participate in the process.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What makes them